Hello, that was quick, and welcome to today's session. I'm Christine Banco with Motivity, and we're really excited to bring you this Future Focus presentation. Our platform serves as the backbone for data collection across over 300 amazing organizations. And since joining Motivity in 2016, I have been amazed by how this small company makes such a big impact. I love the startup culture and the awesome team we've collected. If you're curious about the system, you can sign up for a demo on motivity.net. Now, often Motivity provides CEUs for presentations on BehaviorLive, but our Future Focus presentations don't really qualify. However, we're confident that your time is not going to be wasted. One more thing I want to mention, if you want our presenter or our host to address something specifically or answer your question, please use the question button below, not necessarily the chat function. You'll be able to vote for questions that you want to have answered if you don't have any of your own. And you can use the chat feature to just chat. It's a great honor today to introduce our speaker. I'm going to turn the tables. Let's turn the tables today on Chris Kooken because he has confided in me that he's never presented on his own platform. I know he's going to be a master at it. He didn't even practice, but he's going to be good. But clearly you all know about BehaviorLive or you wouldn't be here. This company has made a really huge impact on our field, and I'm excited to learn more about the technology today. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. Chris Kooken is a passionate entrepreneur and a software developer known for his innovative contributions to both the tech industry and the field of autism treatment. He has a computer science degree from Auburn University. And in 2010, he co-founded DataFinch Technologies, creating a groundbreaking data collection platform for autism treatment, driven by his unwavering passion for solving real-world problems with software and hardware solutions. And he's now the co-founder and president of BehaviorLive. Now I'm going to turn you over to Brian Curley, Motivity's Chief Creative Officer, who will be your host. Take it away, Brian.
Thank you, Christy, and thanks, Chris, for attending. So we've been, I think this is episode 3 now of our Future Focus series. And what we really try to do is, give like a platform for new emerging technologies in the ABA space to kind of talk about why they're here, what they're doing, what's their vision. And BehaviorLive kind of fit right into that mold, funny enough, and that's where we are right now. So I guess kick us off here. Give us the start of how BehaviorLive came to be and that whole like origin story.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It kind of started actually at DataFinch. The idea did, at least, kind of like Motivity does today. DataFinch, we use webinars as a method to get our brand out there, right? And so we did them quarterly. We'd fly in a maven from the field to give a presentation. We had this training room that we had decked out really, really nice with cameras and video streaming stuff, and it was kind of a hobby of ours that we use for marketing purposes. We sold that company in 2018, and after the sale, I just kind of was thinking more about it, and I felt like there was more to do in the CEU space, specifically as it relates to conferences and all that good stuff. So basically, after the sale, I had reached out to Devin Sundberg with the WEBA organization, and I was because I had a relationship with her, and I asked her, can we stream, or not even stream, at that point it was record, can we record your conference and distribute the content on our platform? And she was like, I'd love for that. I'd love for you to do that. We did it. And the next year was when COVID hit. So WEBA was signed up to basically to do it again the next year. And she reached out to me, 6-8 months before the conference. And she was like, what do we do? Like, CalABA just canceled, I don't want to forfeit all my revenue. What do we do? And so I started building all the tools that we are using literally right now, the virtual event platform. And so WEBA 2020 was our first virtual conference that we ever did. And it was a 6-track conference. We were so nervous. We built the platform, but we hadn't really ever used it in a real world environment. And the first one was 6 tracks. And so we just had a couple of part-time employees back then, and we were managing all 6 at the same time. And it ended up being a massive success. And, in order to get through COVID, everybody started reaching out. Hey, I saw you did this for WEBA. Can you help us with our conference? Can you help us with our conference? And that obviously snowballed. And then once COVID was over, it was how do we pivot into the hybrid conferences because the paradigm had definitely shifted. I think before COVID, people were afraid that in-person conferences, if they did a live stream option, people wouldn't come anymore.
Sure.
But COVID kind of turned that on its head, and so
have we seen that shift? Has that shifted back?
No. So I mean, anecdotally, everybody's worried about that, but almost every conference we do has record attendance every year, so they're just going up. It gives people more flexibility, right? If you're pregnant or you can't travel for some reason, or whatever it is.
So what would you say record attendance is not in person?
Just total attendance.
You mean combined? Okay.
Yeah. But the in-person is not going down either. It's not like they're substituting in-person for the live stream audience. So, they're expanding.
So this is just like I guess it wasn't an unknown audience that was out there. There wasn't a platform for them to attend it virtually, I guess. So you just kind of opened that.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And then as we evolved, kind of like the same mindset I had at DataFinch, as I started seeing what people were doing with conference planning. Most of these state-run organizations are all run by volunteers. They have very limited time. A lot of them were doing things, tracking their attendees in Excel, best case scenario, something like WordPress. So I just started seeing all these manual processes that people had for conferences, and we started building all the tooling now. So now BehaviorLive is this sort of cohesive platform where you can publish content, just one-off events. You can, host a conference on BehaviorLive, live or in person. You can sell your own on-demand content and make money from it. And we're really touting ourselves as sort of this conference in a box. We do everything from what I just described. We've even added full service conference planning. So, we have several conferences where we plan the entire thing, WEBA, FABA, partially TechSaba, where they've outsourced the conference to us to basically plan.
Oh, wow.
And we're accredited travel agents now too. So we help organizations find venues for their upcoming conferences as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's end to end. That's really interesting. So what goes into something like organizing a FABA event? Like, do you have to come up? Like, I'm assuming it's a lot, but you have to come up with all the talk tracks. You have to come up with the vendor layout, the registrations, the different exhibitors, sponsorship packages, like all those things, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And, again, going back to my time at DataFinch, when we first started there, I was at the booth, every day hustling, right? And I just loved I just loved doing that. And so with every conference we plan, and even ones we don't plan, but we still obviously have a lot of influence in the space, we always try to take a sponsor first approach, because we want the sponsors who are coming to these conferences to have high traffic, to be in good areas, not just thrown into a ballroom somewhere where nobody's going to come. So, we're always trying to think about how we're going to put the sponsors first at a conference, and then we kind of build the program and the layout and the rooms around that. So,
it's interesting. Yeah. I've been to, I think my count now is somewhere in the 40s with ABA conferences, and they're all over the board, or they were, I guess. This was back 2016 to like 2018 is when I did the most. But yeah, like some of them, you can really tell if they're done in the way you just said, or if you're just stuck in a ballroom. You can really tell if they're actually trying to move traffic, if they know where people are going to go and walk, and it makes a huge difference. It really does. We've seen some to where you barely get people that walk by.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get some to where you can't even ever leave your booth. So it's, it's kind of like, you got to pick which one you want, but that's really cool. So what's next on the list then? Like what else is there? What do you have, building in the future?
Yeah, so I mean, we're growing in the ABA space. We thought we had most of the state. We do have most of the state conferences. We thought that was basically that was all that was going to be in ABA, but it turns out that's not even the tip of the iceberg, right? There's all kinds of provider organizations that have their own internal conferences and training events and stuff that are being hosted on the platform now. CEU Helper Sundown about 4 months ago, and named us as the sort of go-to replacement for that. So CEU Helper was obviously widely used at conferences, but it's also now a lot of organizations used it for their internal events and CEU tracking. So we've expanded a lot in that space. And then most notably, the biggest thing that we just launched was a job board. And so we have over 70,000 users on BehaviorLive, and that's probably close to 90% of all behavior analysts that exist are on our platform and have an account. And so we're getting about 5,000 visitors a day. And so we thought, why don't we try and help the community even more? We'll create a job board and let organizations post on that job board for ABA jobs, because it's hard out there, and you're fishing where the fish are, right? There's behavioral analysts on our site all day, every day. And so the job board is there in their face instead of them having to go to Indeed or LinkedIn to actively search for something. So
yeah, that's I did see you guys release that. It's really nice. So I guess bring me back to the Data Finch days, because that was I was in ABA back then. What do you see, and what are your thoughts on the current ecosystems that are out there, and the technologies and choices that people have? What's your take on what's out there right now?
You talking about data collection specifically, or just technology in general?
Just technology in general. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been cool to see the field grow, right? When we first started, it was basically us and Central Reach, and as far as the ABA technology companies, existed at that time. And then, over the last, 4 or 5 years, we've just seen an explosion with not only data collection, but, even practice management, and, even companies that are helping just IT solutions within.
Different people have found little layers, right? Like to build little tools.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So do you see that continuing, or do you see this as kind of like a bubble that's going to eventually flatten out?
Well, the market's growing the market's growing heavily, right? And behavior analysts are, being certified at a record pace. So, the field is definitely growing. So I think there is still more opportunities here. You talking about our trajectory, eventually we're going to run out of things to do in ABA. It's not infinite. So, we've already started working on ways to generalize our brand and bring it starting with adjacent fields, speech, OT, those sort of conferences and industries. And then even more broad than that, basically any credentialed industry that has CEUs, right? We've even done some cybersecurity conferences, some pelvic floor PT conferences. So we've already started slowly branching into those spaces, but our long-term vision is to sort of be an agnostic platform for any industry.
Yeah, sure. So how many people, what's your team currently?
Currently have 12 employees. And they're kind of all over the country. We've got, people in Colorado, everybody works remote, Colorado, Florida, Alabama, Indiana. So, it's a little bit challenging with everybody remote, but also, it makes some of the travel a little bit easier, right? If there's a West Coast conference, we can send our person from Colorado versus coming all the way from most of us are in the Southeast. My business partner is me, a couple of employees here in Atlanta, and then a couple people in Alabama and Florida. So most of us are in the Southeast.
And do you guys always attend the conferences that you manage?
Mostly, yes. So most of the conferences, we're doing the whole package, like I talked about. Whether or not the planning is included, that's sort of a separate thing. But if we're streaming a conference, we always send one of our people to stream it. Now, we are getting to the point where we are selling just the software platform, and so people who do know how to stream, or if they want to use a local AV company to stream, they can stream to BehaviorLive, and then we don't have to go. So we've been doing that, more and more, which is a lot better, right? The margins are a lot higher. We don't have, to travel as much, et cetera. So. Yeah.
So what's that like? What kind of equipment do you have to bring to do? If you have to stream an entire conference, what does that even look like from like a logistics standpoint?
Well, yeah. So, one of the things that if you ever come to one of our conferences that we're doing, you should check out the back of the room. We've built these little, we call them stream cases, and they're these little self-contained devices. They almost look like a laptop. And you power them up, you connect them to the internet, and you press the button and they start streaming, and we can actually remote control those from anywhere in the world. So I don't necessarily have to send tech people to every conference. I can, we could even theoretically, we could ship one of these to a conference if they didn't want to pay for travel. We could remote control it here, including the camera positioning. We can pan, tilt, zoom, and sort of that sort of evolved because setup was taking us so long, right? When we go to a 6-track conference to plug in every little component and get the audio working, the video working, the camera, it just take us hours to set up each room. And it was, kind of wearing us down. And so we were trying to think of a better way. So now it's just like this self-contained plug and play solution.
And how do you get the audio? Like, how do you get quality audio from that?
Yeah, so the rooms are almost always wired for audio anyway from Encore, the local AV vendor, right? They have a mixer in the room, and we just plug into that mixer. So the audio that's in the room, we can create a little submix from that goes out to the stream. And same with the video. So we take the video feed from the podium. When you go to a podium and you plug your computer in, we split that. Mm-hmm. So one goes to the projector, and then the other one goes into the live stream, and it gets embedded, and we can create a composition where it's like slides and presenter on top of each other.
Wow. I had no idea. That's pretty impressive. And is that all? Yeah. That's a lot of data going back and forth when you stream. Like, how does that, how do you guarantee things like uptime and that it's not going to?
Yeah, I mean, we're always at the whim of the venue's internet, right? And we certainly have had issues where the venue's internet has gone down, and fortunately, we always record locally. So if the venue internet does go down, we usually will publish the recording later that afternoon after we upload it, so people can watch it later, right? Mm-hmm. We've never had anybody that was super unhappy with that. I mean, people are frustrated, right, if a stream goes down in the middle of it, but we've never had anybody just like get really, really angry about it, which is nice. We also have started investing in these devices it's the same devices that FEMA uses for disaster zones. They're by a company called PepLink, and it has 3 cellular modems in it, and basically it can bond the 3 cellular modems together plus the venue internet. So if we don't have a hard line and we want to stream on Wi-Fi, we can grab the venue's Wi-Fi connection, we can grab the cellular connections, even hard lines, we can bond all that together to create a redundant pipe that we can stream over. And so we've started doing that more and more, and that's increasing the reliability of the streams as well.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty impressive. Is that kind of like standard for that type of tech of like a live streaming event? Like, is that pretty like standard when it comes to connections?
You're talking about the bonded connection?
Yeah.
It's really expensive to do. So I would say no. I would say most streaming out there, people are just plugging in their little streaming encoders and streaming directly on the hard lines. We wanted more uptime and reliability, and they're so expensive that we don't have enough to do, multi-track at this point. We've only got a couple of them. So we use them now in like emergency situations. We bring them to a conference. The night before the venue, we just can't get a fast connection or it seems unreliable. We'll plug that in. My goal through the next year is to have one for every stream, so we can just have that reliability, because we can always still use that device with the hardline internet that the venue provides. And
it's like a backup.
Still a backup. So
yeah, I see. So I know we've talked about kind of your history, where you came from. You started with DataFinch. Like, what was that origin story like, and why? Do you have like a personal story with the autism community in any way?
Not really. So my nephew does have autism, but that really didn't have any bearing on me getting into the field. I mean, I knew a little bit about it when this presented itself, and I found that origin story even better than the BehaviorLive one. So I was dating somebody at the time who worked for my now business partners. They owned a private school in Atlanta, it was a nonprofit school in Atlanta, and she dragged me against my will that day to a fundraiser outside. It was a car wash, right? And I really didn't want to go. It sounded terrible to me. But we found ourselves standing on the corner holding a sign like, come support the school. And my business partner, Kobe, basically, Janet was the one who had organized the car wash, his wife, but she couldn't make it because she got sick or something like that. So Kobe came, and we both find ourselves like on the corner holding signs up. At this point, we didn't know each other at all. And he's like, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a software engineer. He's like, oh, I've been looking for a software engineer. I have this idea, we have this big gap in my field, and, would you like to talk more about it? And so that was sort of it. The rest was history. We started meeting, started moonlighting. We would meet in, after hours and get the requirements and what he was trying to accomplish. And we just started evolving the platform. And from there, we got some school systems in Atlanta to pay for it up front. And, those school systems, they paid everything by check. So we got like this nice little cash infusion where I could leave the job that I had full time. I was working at the time for Tivana. I was a software engineer at Tivana. They got bought by Starbucks, but we started making enough money for me to leave there. And then the rest was history. We grew that whole company organically, never took any money, and sold it coming out.
Wow, that's great. So do you I was kind of with CenturyReach back when they started, and I know that their first thing they built was like internal secure messaging. That was the first thing that started the whole blossoming. Was there anything kind of like that with DataFinch? Like, what was the first thing you guys started building?
Discrete trial teaching. Like there was the rapid teaching. The app had these nice animations where you would score a target and it would just fly to the next target in real time. And then the multi-dimensional ABC behavior reduction, antecedents, behavior consequences, and the graphs to be able to graph all that together and see which behaviors were triggering, which were triggered by which antecedents, et cetera.
So your co-founder was a BCBA?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess, the idea behind this kind of talk is a little bit obviously to find out about you, to find out about the technology and your kind of story and everything that's kind of got you to this point. Where do you see technology fitting in with ABA in the future? In the next 6 months, in the next 6 years? Like, what do you think? Like, what's your outlook?
Well, I think there's going to be even more consolidation, right? I mean, private equity already is buying, multi companies and sort of trying to integrate them. The company that bought DataFinch, they own now WebABA. There's a handful of practice management companies that all got bundled into Therapy Brands, and Therapy Brands now operationally, runs all that. I think there's going to be more. I think the company that is able to actually integrate very, very seamlessly is going to be the winner, right? Like, even Therapy Brands to date, to my knowledge, they're still like, you still pick the practice management system out of their solutions that best fits it. And there's, some surface level integration with Catalyst, but some sort of end-to-end solution that kind of handles everything, just like we're doing with conference in a box. We need practice in a box. And I think the company that really will be able to nail that over the next 5 to 10 years is going to really leapfrog forward.
I mean, from the data collection side, do you see, which you kind of had, I would say, a heavy hand in, do you see AI playing a role there in any way?
Probably. I mean, to be honest, I haven't really paid much attention to that particular space since I've moved on. So I know, I see the headlines where there's companies that are developing AI tools for, treatment plans and stuff like that. So I'm sure there's a place, but there's sort of that ethical balance, right? How do we do it ethically? So I'd be interested to see what companies come up with. Definitely on the billing side, I think there's lots of uses for AI on the billing side and administrative side, and then maybe on the treatment side. I'll leave that.
Yeah. We've seen a lot. We just had the guys on from Brillium before, and they have a nice language model that they're using. There's a lot of stuff that are coming on that are just nice little layers to add onto your business that can really help with a lot of things, from intake and authorizations to billing to credentialing and all sorts of different things. So yeah, it's really great to see, and I think the offerings just keep getting better and better. So
We actually used AI at BehaviorLive to solve one of our biggest challenges, which is pretty cool. So we basically, when talk goes on demand, the biggest challenge that we have is we have to have CEU questions for people, like a quiz for people to get CEUs for the recording. And it's always challenging. We try really, really hard before conferences to get all the speakers to submit those. Once the conference is over, it's even harder because the conference is past and they've moved on to the next thing. And so users get pissed because they log into the platform and they want to watch this talk and get their CEUs, but they can't get CEUs until the quiz has been uploaded. And so, because of our accessibility features, the captioning, the transcription, we transcribe every talk automatically anyway. And so we take that transcript and this is all done programmatically. We pump that transcript into ChatGPT, and we can write questions for the talks that are missing them and then send them to the presenter to review. And, we usually get a much faster turnaround in that case, right? Because they don't actually have to write it. They just look at them and these are good. Almost every case, like they're like, these are great. Perfect. So, and it's been great. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great little solution there. Cool, man. Well, I want to say thanks for the chat. This has been really interesting. Hey, Christy.
Hey.
Yeah, I think what you guys are doing are really good. We've seen such a big increase in attendees and in just brand awareness by switching over to you guys, which I think we did about a year ago, something like that, close to a year, maybe more.
Not long.
Yeah, I think it's
Has it been that long?
4 or 5 months.
Oh, well. Either way, it's been, since day one, it was like kind of night and day. It was like, wow, we should have done this a while ago. Before that, we were doing, generating all of our own CEU certificates. We were having to see who attended and who should get a certificate and who shouldn't, and then having to email them all out and make sure they're downloadable. And then people lost them. And it was like a management nightmare. And we did that every month for 2.5 years. So
yeah, Brian,
it was a lot
of I'll take the data and massage it, send it back to you. You create,
yeah. So this has been amazing.
Yeah, what I really love, Chris, about you and even about BehaviorLive and about the things that you were talking about, it's like you see a problem and you attack it. You're like, well, rather than saying, here's some great tech features that I have. And I think sometimes we get overwhelmed with the amount of tech features that we can do and the fun that you can have with tech. And I used to work for Intel back in the 90s. And I felt like that. And actually, I think part of my job, I was an intern, and part of my job was to come up with new ways to use the tech, because the tech at Intel was so great, but nobody was able to use it at that point because it just was too new. And so, but you kind of go at it the other way. You're like, here's a huge problem. Let me fix it. Oh, there's another problem. Let me fix it. And I think that's really been beneficial for our field.
Yep. I've always focused on usability too, which is, I think, what people tend to like the software. It's I think in the terms of a user instead of a developer. At least
absolutely, and that's huge.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, thank you, both of you, for this very interesting talk. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We don't forget to mark your calendars. We do have another presentation next week, August 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where we'll host another Future Focus, and you can register now through BehaviorLive. But thank you for spending some extra time with us.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.